everybody. We are back once again. We have finally given it some time to, relax, to
get our
analyze,
blood pressure down.
the blood pressure go down after the last result. And here we are, episode number 40. And we thought, for today, for this break, December break, we could talk to one of the coaching staff. So we have Gerson Pérez joining us today. And Andres?
Yeah, I mean, we had to take a little bit of time to cool off just because, our hope as fans is always to see our national team do well, despite all of the obstacles, despite all of its shortcomings. You never want to see your national side lose, and especially when results are right there, right within your grasp of obtaining. And, the tie against Jamaica, painful experience in the sense that El Salvador played the game it needed to, and then just one lapse, one defensive mishap, and we were on the ropes the whole time and got bailed out at the end. And Gerson goes into that match and decisions that almost impeded that tie at the end by Roldan, which we'll get into later. And then, of course, the match against Panama, getting that early goal and hoping that we could build off of such an early lead, something that we haven't seen a goal that scored that quick ever. Heido just made record books because of that. And to see the team fall in that way, it's not easy. And so we needed to take our time. I know people were expressing themselves online. People were bantering back and forth. And I guess that's what social media is for, so you don't end up fighting with your tios or your siblings or your cousins, because you got to see them at Thanksgiving and Christmas. So you might as well do it with randos, right? But I think, we all needed time to cool down, and there's no better way of trying to figure out what's going on from the inside than speaking with someone in the coaching staff, so that we don't have to speculate, because one thing that happens a lot with covering sports is, unless you're talking to these sources, there's just all this room for speculation. I don't know how many times I've read or heard people trying to imagine what someone inside is thinking, and that's pure speculation. It's pure punditry. And so we want to do something a little bit different, and that's why we hit up Gerson, and he obliged us. So here's the interview with them. Hope you guys enjoy it.
Is it Gerson or is it Gerson?
Yeah, which do you prefer?
Gerson.
Okay.
Gerson.
Sounds good. Cool, man. So are you back in the States right now, or are you still out in El Salvador?
Oh, I'm in the States right now.
There's a vent. Okay, there's a heating vent. Okay.
Exactly.
Nice, man.
Yeah, I'm in the States right now. We were seeing some players. I was in San Diego watching the Galaxy guys.
Nice.
The academy.
That's cool. So you guys are back for Thanksgiving, get to hang out with the fam for a little bit. And when do you guys have to head on out?
So my dad's over there, staff is over there. I'm the only one here now, but I'll stay here for Thanksgiving next couple of days. And then I think December 2nd or so, we got to figure out where we're training to see if we're going to be able to prepare for the game in Houston. I think it just depends on how soon the league gives the players, or if we're going to get them, then we'll try and train at least a day before the game.
For sure. And because they're not FIFA match days, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, so it's not a FIFA window. So I think we're at the mercy of the club and the league, whether they want to, when they want to give the players or when they don't. So I think we have to wait for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully that gets resolved, because, as it's pretty obvious and has been pointed out, it benefits, in theory, everybody if you can get the team together, even for these match dates. You're playing someone other than Nicaragua or Guatemala, which is a big plus. So the hope is to be able to take advantage of those matches. So you were watching the Barca game earlier?
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of the Barca game. here and there, just because I had my kids today with me. But yeah, trying to see. I mean, nothing different, to be honest with you. Nothing different than what Koeman was doing. But I'm sure there's going to be a change. You're not going to replace those. You can replace one coach. You can't replace the 30 players on the team. They're going to have to grow. You can't take a shortcut.
Yeah, for sure. No, it was cool seeing Demir playing on that flank and trying to, you wish it was Messi the whole time in his better days with cutting into the middle and getting into the area. But they seem to have more energy to them, at least, and also the fans seem more into it. But yeah, hopefully they figure out stuff with Dembele, because I don't know, that guy gets injured too much, and I don't think wasting too much money on him makes sense when they're broke.
Yeah, I don't know. He's good. I mean, as soon as he came in, he had 2 good plays. So I mean, you can't find difference makers in that final third anywhere off the street. So you're gonna have to take what you have and try and work with it.
For sure. And basically, like, we've kind of stalled on doing an episode post the last couple of matches for La Selecta, in part because it was tough results, and we wanted basically to just kind of do it with the cool head, trying to be as objective as possible. But more than anything, instead of speculating, as a lot of the press tends to do, or a lot of fans tend to vent on social media and whatnot, we just kind of wanted to break certain things down, check in with the coaching staff, someone from the inside of how you guys seeing it, living it in person, being behind the scenes, and more than anything, just seeing what the litmus test has indicated for you guys now that you guys are close to the first 6 months of your tenure. How are you feeling in terms of, the results recently? How did the coaching staff, the team take things? How is that being dealt with? Because, it's easy to say, throw in the towel, hit the kill switch, in terms of trying to bring in youngsters in and thinking beyond the qualifying for Qatar. What's the mentality right now?
I think it's tough. I think the results are tough. I think top to bottom, all the way equipment manager to head coach. I don't know if you can say depression, but it's really, really down moment in the entire group. I think we set a goal of competing in this stage as competitively as we could, right? I think that was the number one goal. And then if we could sneak into a top 3-4 spot, perfect. Going into it, I think, you try to be, as a coach, you have to be objective, right? You can't get caught in the emotions of, hey, we're here, we're going to the World Cup in a year. I think you have to keep things into a certain perspective. You have to understand what your limitations are as a team, and you also have to know what you're good at, and you're going to have to try to exploit, the opposing team with what you have. But at the same time, going into it, we knew who we were going to play, and I think that changes it. I think we kind of knew what we were going to be facing. I think the fans didn't think that the teams were that good. I still think there's a really big disconnect between where we should be and where the other teams are. I think, what I've noticed a lot was, it's Jamaica, they're in last. It's Jamaica. This is the time. You go down the roster, it's Premier League, championship, Premier League championship, right? And one USL player or something. So you look at it and you go, okay, this team's going to be good here. This is what we're going to try to do. We have to, almost like Antigua, Barbuda, and St. Kitts, you're going to have to control the game and make it a slow game, because if you make it a fast game, they're going to run you over, right? You have to really control the whole tempo of the game, high possession, high number of passes, where we're going to be on the field. what section of the field we're going to try and get the ball more to negate their strengths. And Antonio comes in, and everybody had all the defenders had 6 minutes of Antonio, of what he does, how he scores, what he does around the box, and he still scores, right? And I felt like everybody's shocked that he scored, and we're there preparing. This guy comes in, he can score. We got to be dangerous. Hey, Eric, this is our controller. Hey, Dominguez, this is what he likes to do. And everything was control, right? So even when you look at the goal, it was a 3v1 in the back. I think the whole week of training, we were talking about 2v1, 3v1 in the back, 2v1, 3v1, never leave a 1v1, never leave a 1v1, where our number's going to be. And he broke a 3v1. So, those are the realities of who we're playing. So I think, you're disappointed, but at the same time, you have to, as a coaching staff, as a team, you have to be able to build from it because you know who you're playing. And I think only internally do we know who we're playing against. I still think, like I told you, the fans, I think that hope that, we're going to be better that day. It is a possibility, right? But you're playing odds that are not in your favor. That, you have a Premier League forward. There's going to be a moment in the game that you're going to see why he's a Premier League forward. And you have to, you have to learn how to compete with that. You have to learn how to control that. The best way you can control it as a coach is say 2v1, 3v1. We get 2-3 guys around them and control that situation. And that's what you can do. And then the rest comes with experience, comes with that scenario happening every day in your training, every day happening week in and week out of your competition. As a defender, getting punished for your mistake consistently in an environment that punishes you, you're going to learn. If you don't get punished, you're not going to learn because you can learn to do little things and I got away with it. So it's part of growing. It's part of growing, and it's not like we're throwing in the towel. I think the goal is still compete, be in every game and try and steal as many points as you can. As soon as you leave El Salvador, everybody says El Salvador's competing. El Salvador's playing well. Salvador's there. They're close. I get texts from MLS coaches. Fantastic job. I saw Greg Vandy on Saturdays. I think you guys are doing great. And I think you have to take that for what it is because, look, we are competing. The boys, the guys on the team, they're doing their best. But we know we have to be better. But these are the games we're going to learn how to get better. Again, I don't remember El Salvador, aside from 2009, playing this many quality games in a row, right? Like you said, Nicaragua, Guatemala, all right? And then an island, and you sprinkle in another Nicaragua, Guatemala, and then another island. So it's easy to get your view distorted as to why these teams are where they are and why they've been to more World Cups than us in the last 10 years.
Yeah, I think, Gerson, you bring up a very interesting point because I think, from like a fan's perspective, I noticed a big difference in terms of the style that we've been playing up until Jamaica. And against Jamaica, I did see a team that that didn't press as much, or of course we played it safer. And in my mind, I thought, this is the way we can counteract their individual talents and their strengths. I mean, they're a very athletic team that can destroy us if we try to divide the ball too much. And I think it's great to get the perspective from the coaching staff that was the way the game was prepared, and we saw it. I mean, up until Antonio scored that goal, we were almost playing a perfect game. From that perspective, perhaps the fans didn't know that was the way we were trying to play, but it's interesting. And of course, I don't talk these things with Gerson or Hugo. Just make my own observations. But it's good to hear it and be able to analyze the game better from that perspective. And I think you bring up another great point where sometimes it's easy to forget where we stand, where we come from, where we used to be when we analyze the numbers. I mean, people say, Jamaica, it was not doing that great in the first couple of games. They were missing half of their team. Also, their last World Cup was 1998, but they've been to a couple more final rounds than us. I think they've been in 2 more. All of that adds experience to their players. And if we really look at it, our team, it's completely new in this stage. I don't think, aside from Larin, maybe not even Larin, but I don't think any of our players have experience playing the final round of the qualifiers.
This is the first for all of them.
Yeah,
this is the first for all of them, and like I said, playing this many games in a row, right? None of them, and this is what you need. It's what you need to grow. But as I said, this I think is, it has to be everybody. If it's not everybody, it doesn't work. Because, even as a fan, if I was a fan, I'm thinking, all right, where are the next 14 games? Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, let's go. This is 14 games that we haven't seen, right? I mean, only the people that saw the 2009 group, before that, I think the 98 group, this is 14 games where you're going to find out why these countries have gotten to where they've gotten the last 10 to 15 years, right? And this is a good opportunity, I think, as a country to self-reflect and say, why is this happening to them and not to us, right? And I stayed in Panama. My flight didn't leave till 7 p.m. So I stayed in Panama all day after the game. And, I took an Uber somewhere, and the Uber driver was talking about the game. He didn't know who we were.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was with a couple of the coaches, and we didn't tell him. We just said, yeah, we came to watch the game. And all he kept saying was, wow, El Salvador, wow, what a game. Like, we're so impressed with what you guys have done. And then he started telling us a little bit of what Christiansen does. He came in 2018, 2019, started going to the colonias and barrios. And all he does is look at players, call the La Liga teams, first division, second division, and he sends a scout to watch the player. And the first thing they do is they take him out and they take him to Spain. All right. And that's what he's doing. Right. So it's an interesting model. It's different because Panama doesn't have a strong league. But he's doing this, right? You're starting to see a little bit like Yannis that played first game he had started, I think, against us. We didn't anticipate he was going to start. Good player. Right, good for what the moment was, good for what they needed, good to counter what we had. And you look at it; he's playing in Spain, I think, Girona. So it's just a way of understanding that everybody's getting better, right? And we have to, like I said, self-reflect and figure out how it is that we're going to keep up with that standard. Now that we know what the standard is for those 8 teams, you talk about Canada. Everybody you can name me any one of these 8 teams, and I'll tell you what the process was for them and why they're there and why they have success. It's not a secret, really.
Yeah, and in the sense of El Salvador, you stop and think about it. Your guys' helm or tenure is, heading towards month 6. We haven't been in this round of qualifying, as you mentioned, for years. And the veterans that have had that experience playing like the second to last round of qualifiers were around when Primi was at the helm. So half of the team was booted off the squad for reasons outside of the pitch. So, they ended up playing Mexico with a lot of key players missing. So it's not an ideal situation. So it has been a mess, especially with, the aftermath of the Amaños that we're still feeling to this day. And it's still being brought up constantly. And I think it is a moment to reflect where instead of holding the team under such scrutiny, look for the pieces that are working, look at the style of work or the tactics that are working, and then how are we going to build off of that? And the main thing is, youth development. The league needs to develop players. We need to find our model, because the model isn't working, especially when you have basically most of the forwards in the league are all foreigners. So how can you pick strikers in a league where there's few strikers that are eligible? So I don't know. I think it's been an interesting kind of crossroads after this last window of matches where you have one side, it seems, of the local press and fans holding the team under high scrutiny and making the comments that they do, and then versus the team, the fans that are trying to take a step back and seeing what the ultimate goal is, which is you have to build a process that goes beyond 5 months before you see results, before we see where we stand in comparison to the other 7 countries. And how has that scrutiny affected the coaching staff and the squad? Because we've been hearing things out of El Salvador in terms of just the pressure being put on the coaching staff in terms of the Fito situation, which has lingered for years. He's had issues with other coaches. It's just like the most recent episode of it for me that I've noticed. And also, how's the squad doing? Has there been sort of a division? I know you can't share too much because ethically that's not what you're supposed to do, but in terms of like morale, how is the squad handling the latest results?
I can tell you it's difficult. I think that it's different. The results are difficult for everyone. In terms of morale, the group's been good. At least within our environment, it's been good. I don't know what happens outside when they go. I'm not sure, but within the group, it's been good. It's been fine. I think everybody, like I told you, is hurt because of where we are on the table, how close we've been to maybe flipping that into Panama's position. But they also understand that that's what you have to build on, right? That's what we need to get to is learn how to win those games. And then, in terms of the fans and the pressure, look, this is a result business, right? This is a result-based business. So you have to win to keep everybody happy, right? Gold Cup, everyone's happy. Deficiencies in what we're seeing, we also as a staff since July, June, okay, this is where we're going to struggle, right? But you get a couple good things going in Gold Cup. You get a Trinidad and Guatemala who you can play toe to toe. It looks better. Once you play a much, a USA with the European players, it's a little bit different. But I think the players already have the experience, at least most of them, that things can turn like this in terms of the fan base. Right? They can be happy with a good result, and then the next time they're unhappy. Right? You look at the game we played. I think it was Antigua, where we should have. I think we had 37 shots on goal. We ended up with 3 goals in June. Right? We were booed off the Cuscatlan. Right? Players were getting cussed out in the locker room because the locker room's right next to where people walk. So all the players are getting cussed out, and we won 3-0. So that shows you kind of what the players expect. I will say it saddens me that they have such low expectations sometimes from the fan group, just because they feed off of it. In terms of when the fans are behind us, we get up a level, right? That's why I always say in LA, we like playing in LA because it almost feels like Bichos Unidos. Everybody's always getting that team going, right? Even against Qatar, we're down 3-0. They didn't stop singing. And in Cusca, you're tied 0-0. It's quiet. And it favors the away side because they don't feel anything. In Panama, we scored first. They didn't go quiet 1 second, right? They were nonstop. So, I mean, all of it matters, but at the same time, I think the players have the experience to get through it. The group has been great. The group, the quality of how the group is kind of what keeps us going, right? Because we understand that they want to win. They understand that what we're doing as work, they can respect. They respect the fact that there's details. They respect that there's high volume of work, sometimes too much work, right? That might be some feedback we get is, maybe we're working a little too much. Can we take a break? And that's okay, right? That's the feedback that we need as a coaching staff to know if we're doing too much or too little. But at the same time, we're in crash course mode, which is we need to adapt fast, right? Like I told you right now, we don't know if we get the players to train before Ecuador, right? So when you get them, you're trying to squeeze 2 sessions out of it because you play in front of 20,000 people the next day, right? Because the fans don't know we're going to train. They think we're a club team. We're training for the last 10 months. So it's a balance of everything, but I think the group is fine. I think the most of the players understand what the fan base expects. And it is a, how would I put it? For me, it's always interesting because I think where we were and where we are, and I think it's good, but fans want what the other countries have, which is they want to be in the first 3 and they want to go to a World Cup. And that's something we have to keep working to.
I think that it's hard for a fan to be realistic, right? And be objective, because when we criticize the performance of this team in the octagonal, former hexagonal, like what are we measuring it with? Against what? The 2019? Because that's basically as far back as we have to go, because prior to that, in the last 10 years, we haven't been to that round. So to me, when I think about it as a fan, I was happy that, hey, we're going to see our national team in the final round, the final stage to qualify to a World Cup. Of course, at the same time, you have the expectations, if you can say, that you might get some points here and there and perhaps be fighting for that 3rd, 4th spot. But the reality is that if we haven't been at this stage for 10 years, 11 years, reality is that we are possibly going to be stuck in the 7th or 8th spot, because if we want to improve, we have to continue doing this, and we have to be there in 2026 again. And I'm not saying in no way that it's time to throw the towel. I mean, mathematically, we have a chance, and I think that we should fight, and I'm sure the guys and the coaching staff is going to fight until the end. If anything, it will be a great practice and experience towards what's next. But the question that I have for you, I guess to put it into perspective for the fans, because the criticism comes to the senior team. Of course, that's the team that captures everyone's attention. But in my observation, what you and your dad and the entire coaching staff are doing goes beyond just the senior national team. You guys are currently working on a U15 or U17 and U20s that are coming up. That's going to feed into the senior team eventually. I don't want to abandon the subject of the senior team completely, but can you tell us a little bit about, what your approach is, or the coaching staff's approach is to improve the national teams from U17 to the senior team, so the fans can know what's going on behind the scenes, that there's more to just the senior national team?
Well, I think whatever way we look at it, we came in June thinking, number one, 2026, right? Because that preparing for that gives you the highest chance of success. In between that, we've mixed in how to compete for the 22 World Cup. But at the same time, we've had some young guys play, right? Like Enrico starting in big games. Sometimes he's doing well. Sometimes you could tell he's young, but it's what he needs to be ready for 2026, right? He needs that experience in a Panama and a Costa Rica down, up 1-0, down 2-1. You need that for the player. So that's been the balance. Now you go back down to, let's say, U20, U17. We're trying to do our best to number one, see as many players as we can from El Salvador. Juan Carlos, William, they help us a lot in terms of knowing what players are coming out of where, second division, third division, reservas, ADFAS. We're tapping, every available resource we have. We're trying to figure out how to, where and how to get players. Now, the concern I have, okay, because my background is in forming developing players. The concern I have is that those players have not gone through any type of development in the last 4 to 5 years. And you're talking a 17, 16, 18-year-old. So even 2026 to me is in jeopardy because you're starting already very late. 2030 for me is realistic, but I've told everybody, sorry, if you say 2030 right now, the defense mechanism rises. Vende humo, otro proceso, right? And it's like current, but it's a reality. And the way I see it is, again, this is kind of what I did for a long time was, players from 13 to 17 was where I'd like to specialize in terms of what I thought, we thought they needed to break into the Division I college, MLS, Europe. You kind of already knew where that standard was. So even then, I think it's late, right? But what you can do is try and get them early, try and get them into camps, try and get them, and you can start working with them. I think a U15 team, and U15, mind you, would be 2008, 2009 players. I think you still do a lot with that group. 2007, you're on the cusp of it being kind of late from the development, right? 2003, 2004, which is the one I'm focusing right now. That one's even more difficult, right? Because that's a developed player. That's the end product almost. The only thing he's going to get now is experience. So it's a balance, but we're trying to tap every available resource in the country to figure that out. Now, the flip side is because of our experience in the US, we kind of know where these players are playing in MLS, right? I can tell you, I know who that is. Yeah, this is his level, right? Compared to this guy. And and this is, I've been talking about this for like a month or more. I'm concerned because, when you get the 97, 98, 99 class, call it the 96 class that we get into the men's side right now. Those players didn't grow up in the development system in the US. They grew up in the fractured system. They grew up in the spontaneous player that comes out of a program. They still grew up in Dallas Cup, Surf Cup type stuff where you automatically just luckily found a player. You go now to the 2000, even up until 2002s. The 2003s, 2004s, that was the first year U.S. Soccer put in the U12s. That's the first group. U12, U13. That's when the development academy started that young. Even then, you didn't see pros signing that much at 16, 17, right? 15 years old. You didn't see much of them. The ones that'll stand out will be a Cade Cowell, who was a 2003, right? You might have Brendan Aronson. So you're seeing a few. If you go even younger, start going 2005, 2006, 2007, that's the real crop of developed MLS talent, right? And an age group that's been really, really polished, right? So now you're going to see more Salvadoran Americans pop up, right? I went to go see Galaxy, four very good players. They're not in the 2003 group, 2004 group, right? There's one 2005 and the rest are 2006, 2007, 2008. You're going to start, you just put that in Galaxy, right? LAFC has 4 in the back. That's 4 2007s. That's already 8 players just in Los Angeles. We haven't even gone to Texas, Washington, D.C. So this is my concern. My concern is with El Salvador not working in its development, this is kind of how it's going. With the U.S. focusing in those age groups, this is how the Salvadoran American players go. And that player is going to be, I'll tell you right now, it's going to be better than every USL player we'll bring in, MLS player, right? Even the Roldan didn't grow up in a development system, right? He's been a byproduct of hard work, determination, being in the right place, and more to his character than maybe his club or coach development. So for me, that's a concern because my thing is that if there's already negativity with players from the U.S. going to play in El Salvador, what's going to happen when all of a sudden you have 24 players on the cusp of an MLS contract, like a Jeremy Garay, right? Like a Danny Rios, and now you're getting that higher talent, higher development. What's going to happen, right? So we have to start looking at those scenarios, but it also means that in El Salvador, we have to start changing some sort of the development because at the moment, if I said they're getting nothing, that'd be pretty accurate or close to it because the way, and I speak to all the coaches over there. What is it that they're doing that works very little? They're just thrown into games. They'll show up. There's no coach, right? They'll just play in this. They'll play in this. Then they go to a reserva, and then it's kind of a free for all. But it's very little work that's done, and it concerns me because here you have a fans' expectation that we're the top 32 countries in the world in our football, and we're working less than every other country that doesn't even make it to a World Cup. And it could be, it could be a never-ending problem, or we're going to really bite down on this and we're going to get to work. And it's only going to go two ways. Either we're going to see this process through, or we're just going to keep going in that perpetual cycle of, hey, why don't we bring in the 33-year-old to qualify for the World Cup, right? And then he comes in, nothing happens. And then you just threw the 20-year-old on the side. He didn't get the experience he needed. And then you try in 2025, 2026 again to make it to another World Cup. And then we're going to be asking again, let's bring the 35-year-old. Let's bring that 36-year-old that does really well. I think he's the answer, right? This guy's way better than the 20-year-old. You got to look, he's 20 years old. He's 19 years old. He's 21 years old. That's going to be your future. And in 2018, the U.S. doesn't qualify. I mean, you guys know that. How much of a crisis was it here? And you're talking about fans that are very nice here, right? They're very, very nice fans. And already it was panic. And then you look at the record after the World Cup, 2018, 2019, for this young team that played, it wasn't good, right? They were played off the park by Italy. They lost to, I forgot what I don't know if it was a Norway or Sweden, right? It was, why are we doing this? Greg, no, it's no good. Ian Sarakin had the team as interim. And then all of a sudden, these 17, 18-year-olds are starting Champions League games. They're playing in national team games. They're playing in Gold Cup. And all of a sudden, now you have this generation that is ahead of Mexico, right? So, I mean, I just look to Canada. It's the same thing. You have these young guys, Tajan Buchanan, making this jump, Jonathan David, Kyle Larin. These are all guys I knew a year ago how good they were, right? And if I look at it, I go, yeah, this team has done the work, right? Vancouver Whitecaps, Toronto FC, they put in a lot in their development. They are producing players, right? They have a residency. They have 7 days a week training with nutrition, with gyms. They have things done, and they've kind of earned their right to be where they are in the World Cup qualification. So I think we're going to hit a crossroads, and it can be deceiving for somebody else who doesn't know what's going on here. But I'll tell you right now, the 1995 class to the 2002 class, or even 2003 class, has not worked the way the 2004 to 2008 class, 2009 class is working. And look, I think it's good for us to have that, but we're also going to be in a little culture shock saying, wow, there's 8 players out of LA that are that good, right? The whole back line for LAFC and the U15 team is Salvadorian. When does that happen? Right? So we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna reach a crossroad. We have to figure out how we're gonna solve it. But I think short term we keep looking at these players. Long term, we have to set something up in El Salvador where they're working that way. Because I still think the player from El Salvador is more cultured, is more used to the angry fan, can deal better with a full stadium cussing at him the entire game from his own fans than a player from here who's never experienced that. I think there's a big cultural difference. But in terms of formation, the player in the U.S. is getting developed a little bit better.
So in essence, what you're saying is you see a young team like the U.S. rise, you see a young team like Canada rise, and you look at the development and the structure being put in place. It isn't a surprise that they're up there. And it isn't a surprise that we're at where we are currently. And I also wanted to shift into the coaching staff. You mentioned the national team being like a crash course for a lot of the local players in terms of what you guys are looking for intensity-wise, tactically, trying to make up for a lack of formation or preparation in country. What have you guys had to deal with in terms of your own crash course or growing pains as a staff being at this level and what have you enjoyed about it, and what have been some of those difficulties of adjusting to, you know, this new chapter in your career?
Well, I think when I say crash course, it's more of, you know, I think players understand things, right? It's not that they've repeated a lot of that before, maybe, but it's not like the players don't know how to play. They can play. The thing is, you're still, you know, as a team, we're still trying to find more so of our identity. We know what we want to do, and we can work on how we want to get that. But same time, like, you know, since you don't have the group, you kind of have to rush. Every training is a kind of a rushed walkthrough. And not only that, you add that they, you know, let's say Roldan comes in 2 days before our first game. Zabaleta comes in maybe 2.5 days before. Cacho, Larin comes in 2-3 days before, because they're all playing. They come in, they vlog 90 minutes when they come in. So that means the next day they're in ice. They're doing therapy. Okay, so we'll do short video. They'll watch the session. The next day, they can do 50%. Okay. And that's probably our last day we can have a high workload. So you can't put them in a session where they're going to be, you know, working on pressing, and we're going to work on our transition piece, right? Hey, Antonio breaks. Let's do this transitional work, because they're dead tired. The next day is the day before the game. That's it. You can do a 20 to 40% intensity session. The day after is the game, right? So this is where it's a crash course. It's quick session, quick walkthrough, cone setup. Hey, this is what we might experience. Difference in Gold Cup is you have them in Croatia, right? You have them 30 days. You get the full 4 days recovery. You have at least 1 or 2 good sessions a week, right? So there's kind of the difference in terms of crash course. Now, as far as growing pains for the staff, look, I think we're all growing. We're all learning as we go. I think it's no secret that, you know, we had not been coaching at a professional level in terms of MLS or national. I don't think that's a secret. But at the same time, I don't see it as a hindrance at the moment, because I think we're all growing at the same time in terms of players, staff, country. I think we're all growing, right? If you look at how we prepare for Gold Cup, how we did at Gold Cup, it kind of shows you what we can achieve, right? With a lot of time. There's really no secrets in the game of soccer. I think it's just a matter of the player understanding what the environment is, understanding what the intensity that we need to reach, understanding clearly what the style of play is. You know, that's really what a national team coach can do, is just establish his style of play, establish what he wants by picking the players he's picking. And then the rest, you know, a lot of it is kind of where the player's coming from, right? I can guarantee you Berhalter's training 45, 55-minute sessions. He's not, oh my God, Berhalter, you ran an amazing session. Like, you really got us this 3 hours. You showed us. No. The difference is Pulisic comes in from Tuchel, right? Tuchel is doing this. And then McKinney's coming from Juventus. That makes a difference. Nothing against the local coach in El Salvador, but there's a reason why they're in Europe, right? There's a reason why the best of the best happens in Europe, because there's good trainers, better than all of us. So I think that's been part of the growing bit. Now, in terms of us learning, look, we're learning every day, right? After the Costa Rica game, the first thing we said is, what could we have done different at the half? And believe me, we took that into the Panama game. Right? What is it that worked? What is it that's not working? What is it that we need to fix? And look, as a coach, sometimes you get things right. As a coach, sometimes you get things wrong. And that's part of the business, right? I think sometimes you press the right button, sometimes you press the wrong button. You know, I'll give you a quick anecdote on the goal Roldan scores against Jamaica. We almost blew that as a staff. We almost took out Cacho. And, you know, this is 6 minutes before the game finishes. Wadmer comes in. Wadmer goes to the fourth ref. He's taking out Cacho. We're putting Roldan on the left, and we're going 3-4-3 to try and get the goal. By some miracle, you know, I started thinking, and I said, who's going to cross? I'm like, Roldan crossing with his left. So quick 5-second meeting with my dad and the other guy. Look, why don't we just take out the 6, put Darwin there? And yeah, Darwin's not a 6, but at least he can stand there, and we'll have crosses both right and left. So that way Roldan's closer to the box. All right, fine. Get it done. Walmer, come back. Right? So Walmer comes back. Scratch that. There's the new sub. Comes in. it worked, right? So fine, you pressed the button that worked, but against Panama, it didn't work. Against Costa Rica, but we have to learn from that. But I also think that's what the business is, right? When you make a change in the second half or something and it works, you're a genius. And it doesn't, Guardiola says it best. Nobody really knows what's going on inside the situation to understand why that sub is coming in or what it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I always say that if Tuchel doesn't win the Champions League, he gets killed for not starting Pulisic, right? But he wins, he puts him in as a sub, and all of a sudden he's a genius because he used him as a super sub and he changed the entire game. It's just how the nature of the business is. So I think, look, we're learning from those situations. I think we're growing from it. But, I think with us, the project has always been different, right? It's been about growing this team for 2026. There's no guarantee we'll be the coaches in 2026. But what I want to make sure is if we do hire Guardiola in 2025, that he has 30 very good players that have been working at a good intensity, that they've gotten enough looks to be playing abroad. And then he's going to come in and, he's a genius. So he'll put them probably in a better spot than we will. And then maybe we make a World Cup. And guess what? We'll be part of that World Cup process and we'll be happy with it, right? It doesn't have to be us that takes us to the World Cup. But for me, that's the thing. It's like, this is so, like you said, it was so much bigger than just this 2022 octagonal. And I think people get carried away thinking, no. They said that we competed and we're going to beat it. True. But at the same time, we're playing a lot of 23-year-olds, 20-year-olds, guys with less than 10 caps. There's really one reason for that. It's because we need that experience for 2026. And if we were lucky enough, or we are lucky enough to be in the top 4, so be it, right? But at the same time, you can't do what the other processes did and throw it all away in one hex and then blow it up again for 2-3 years. And then here we're going to be in 2025 talking about La Selecta, trying to qualify into the last stage and where we are ranked and what we're going to do Gold Cup. I think we have to really bite the bullet and we really have to go through with it. If not, we're going to be stuck another 40 years.
I think that some of us understand that, and it's very difficult, obviously, to make the other fans understand that. Hopefully, the people in charge understand that.
Look, right now, we met with Carrillo. Carrillo, wants to see this project through to 26. He told us after the Panama game, look, we have to keep going for this World Cup, but, we can't throw it all away. We have to keep doing what we're doing with the youth. We're going to continue to support you guys for what you need with the youth national teams. So look, we're grateful that he's been able to do that. I think also as a federation, they're growing. I don't think they're used to us asking for so much, right? They're used to coaches coming in. What do I have? Okay, cool. Yep. No problem. Don't worry about it. And I think the biggest reason is they're foreigners, right? You come in. I don't care if you don't make the World Cup in 3 years. I could care less. I'm going to get a 4-year contract. I'm going to get paid. I'm going to use it as a springboard. And you guys figure your stuff out in the next 3 years, right? I'm here just for this. I'll bring the 35-year-old to make me look good. So I think, they're also growing. And I think this is part of, hopefully the fans grow. That's why I said everybody, federation, players, coaches, because, we're always asking for stuff, right? I'm bringing a video analyst. He's a half video analyst, half a licensed coach, but we need help somewhere, right? So we bring him in. Okay, I have another video analyst. What do I need? Look, just pay for his flight, pay for his hotel. I need the game broken down this way. He's got a software. Perfect. Look, we need GPS. We need modern GPS. We need a GPS that tells us if Jairo's at his limit, right? Because if we know Jairo's at his limit, maybe he doesn't start against Costa Rica. You understand? So everybody, I think, is growing. And I think it's what the country needs. So I think for the fans, for me, it's just wait it out and know that the next World Cup, you're going to have a pretty deep team. And maybe we're not the coaches, right? Maybe we're not the right fit. Maybe we're not getting the results in 2023, 2024 that we stay. But at least if we can set something up, then at least it's going to be okay, right? Going forward, there's going to be a glimmer of hope. Not where right now it's where do we get the players? Where are they coming from? How did this kid come out of nowhere? I think we have to do a better job at that.
And in terms of moving on, in case, when that were to occur, is it going to be because of the pushback from the press, or would it have to be something internally, or you guys have to check in with your own mental health because of all the scrutiny and pushback that exists? We had multiple examples of coaches that haven't survived their contract due to various factors internally, externally, because that's just the modus operandi there. There's been proof of journalists being paid by other people to just come out with negative pieces on coaches and create, just a constant fuss. How are you guys managing that so that you can stay motivated and focused on your goal without ending up bald,
Look, it's tough. I'll tell you the truth. Look, it's not easy. I think, me for the most part, I'll turn off social media. I'll try not to check in. I think my dad is too nice maybe sometimes when he answers every call, answers every question. I don't. I won't pick up a call. It's not that. So I think we have to also grow there, right? I think that's one. But, I like it. It's going to take everybody, right? I would say the press has been good. I don't think they've been negative. There's probably a couple people that are negative, and that's fine. I think they have every right to do that. My question to everybody that's negative is, show me what was done in the past that was working, and I'm happy to adopt it. But because we don't have anything, we have to do this because we're coming from a place where they're almost top of the table. They got 15 guys in Europe, God knows how many in the MLS. And guess what? We're part of a lot of their development. So whether you guys like it or not, this formula already worked for us. And whether you have the patience to see it through or not, that's going to be up to everybody in the country. But the fact that there's already a winning formula, that all you have to do is maybe copy it a little bit and adjust it to your culture, you have something. You have something there. You have a foundation. But again, the criticism, when there's critic, fantastic. I love the criticism. This is how we're all going to get better. But what is it? Tell me what it is that worked before that you're bringing up so that I can try and adopt it. And if you tell me tactics, if you tell me a player, if you want to blame a player for it, nah. You go to a World Cup as a country, as an infrastructure. That's how you go to a World Cup. You don't go with, one magical sub, right? And let's call it what it is. Are we the top 3 federation in CONCACAF? Were we in the last 10 years to go to a World Cup? Pretty simple answer. Look, we all have not been good. Everybody, right? Are we a top 3 in CONCACAF Champions League right now? There's a league. No, we're not. So again, let's use this time to get better. Let's use the hexagonal right now to show what the Salvadorian player has. And let's all be Salvadorian and figure it out together. I know it sounds easy, but look, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, the amount of people calling us for players and asking if they're good fits for the American game, the fast game, the physical game, the agents, we look at it as a positive. In the country, there was noise that we are agents. Oh my God. I think you work for my agency, apparently, I heard. I think you, Diego, me, we all have an agency somewhere.
Apparently, yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, hey, no, that's the agency that you guys don't. But you see what I mean? This is how kind of disconnected we are from the reality of things, which is, this is absolutely normal, right? I just got a call from a USL coach asking me about a player, saying, hey, do you think he can play this high tempo physical? I said, are you kidding me? He's your best player walking on the field. It's only fast tempo, I said, for players that aren't at the level. It's really slow for a player who's really good. So no worries there. But again, if somebody in El Salvador found out, they would say that I was selling the player to this team and that I was going to make a commission on the side. And again, this is where I think it's sad, because the taxi driver in Panama wasn't accusing Christensen of selling players, right? He was accusing him of being a huge part of why Panama is where it's at, of why the players are getting out of the country, why they're getting more looks, why it's opened up the market for all the Panamanians. And I was so upset that after the game, and then listening to the Uber driver spit more knowledge than I had gotten on my Twitter feed in the last 6 hours, I said, we really need a reset, and we really need to understand that, if a player doesn't play in Alianza or FAS and he moves on, then that's us growing as a nation, right? If a player goes on a free loan with a 25% sell-on fee later, that's not a bad thing because we are not known for having players be successful, right? If the Brazilian clubs are giving out players on free loans with a 30%, 40% sell-on fee, they're known for exporting players, right? And here we are not wanting to loan the player out or putting his price super high so he doesn't leave. I think all of that is what's been affecting us the last 20 years, and we have to figure out how we're going to solve it as a league, as a country, as a fan, as a federation, coaching staff, everybody.
I think we can. In this conversation, I've had like 10 subjects that I want to talk about, but obviously we don't have the time. But I mean, from what you just said, I've been doing this for 11 years. I've been searching for Salvadoran players born in other countries for 11 years. And
yeah,
I always believed, and I still believe that, the players who have a different formation outside of El Salvador can help us get to our goals faster. Obviously, that's just one component because you have to work with the players in El Salvador, the young players in El Salvador. There's always been, unfortunately, our culture doesn't help, where we can see someone doing something good out of their own heart. And I'm not necessarily saying that this applies to you, but I know that there's a lot that you guys are doing that is not for the amount of money. I don't know how much money you guys make, but I'm sure that's not the top priority here. I'm sure it's not the top priority here. And there is a culture in El Salvador where when people are doing something good, there must be something bad behind it. And that has really gotten me upset many times because I've seen it over and over again. I mean, I haven't only been accused of being part of your agency, but I was actually accused of being the main contact of the Amañadores at some point. I was like, seriously? What are you talking about? So I'm kind of used to this stuff by now. But I wanted to go back and I'll try to make it ask all my questions in one. First of all, there is the criticism about, well, this is not a club, this is a national team, so why are you asking for more time? And I think more time with the players. And I think you clarify that here, that the reason why the national team coaching staff needs the players longer is because of the environment in which they play. I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
It's a balance. It's just, I think it's a balance of that because look, each coach might have his style or how they do things, but if we're going to adapt and compete against players in Europe, Champions League, Premier League, what is going to be your advantage in those games? Right? That's how we have to look at it. How do we compare a player from Chalatenango versus a player from West Ham United? How can we close that gap real quick? Unity, chemistry. That's the only way you can shorten the gap in a short amount of time. Right? You can't shorten the gap in terms of, this guy's better than the Premier League forward. He might be, but he's not playing at that pace every day. And I don't care if he's in MLS, USL, Guatemala. You cannot compare the Premier League and Champions League with any pace across the world. You cannot. Right? I cannot say, look, no, I think Jairo is just as good as Pulisic. Maybe he's better than Pulisic, but guess what? Pulisic has to prove it day in and day out at a speed that is so high that it just forms you, right? Iron sharpens iron. Jairo's not living that. I don't care if Jairo plays in CONCACAF Champions. He's not going to live it unless he's playing it at that level, right? So the only way you can shorten that distance is chemistry, more team understanding as a team, and almost make it a club team, right? Club teams are successful against national teams, not because they have better players, because they know every pattern, they know how they're going to press, they know how they're going to switch it. And that's what you need to be able to compete right now, is the understanding we've been wanting to try to play a 5-2-3 or a 3-5-2. We don't have the time to even work on it, right? Against Panama, one of the solutions in our notes was 5-4-1. We needed to control the outside. We haven't had any time to play with a back five. So to throw it in a game where you're down 2-1 and say, hey guys, we're going to a back five. I mean, as a player, what are you talking about? We've never done this. Why are you doing something we've never done? You can't do it, right? The only way you can do something like that is when you work on it. So what do you need? You need time. You need an extra day, right? Oh, guess what? We're going to have them fresh legs. Oh, cool. Let's actually, play something where this team has a back five and this team has a back four. So that's why we ask for the players. It's not so much for the environment or, because I think it's delicate when you get into that, because maybe Tigana, maybe Sarko, maybe they're probably doing a way better job than us. But it's just, we need to tailor it to what we need to compete with the players we think we're competing. And, if you take a good analysis of it, the 94 World Cup team, which my dad was on, what did they do? They didn't have better players than everybody, but they became a club team. They trained for 2 years together. They played 50-something games as a national team, almost like a club. And guess what? They were in the World Cup, and they understood each other. They knew everything. They were more cohesive than everybody else. They played as a team because they were a team. And that's what allowed them that jump to the second round. So it's kind of a mixture of trying to get that. But I think it's just more of trying to get the team to be cohesive, right? Again, you look at Gold Cup, we're together for a month. There is some sort of cohesiveness, right? They work better. We understand what our subs can do. We understand what the changes are going to be. We understand who's coming in at a good level, right? Sometimes now you get players who haven't been playing minutes, or they're going through a bad spell at the club. You're trying to get all those guys back in form in 3 days so that they can go against the U.S. on January 27th and upset the U.S. in the U.S., right? So that's the challenge.
Yeah, I guess part of my point was, if you're playing in a league where the tempo's slow, where the fields are heavy, where the intensity is not the same as the intensity that you play in a World Cup qualifier, and you only have 5 days with the local players and 2 days, 2.5 with the foreign players. Like, how much can you really do in that time, in those 5 days, to get them fit enough to play at that intensity that's required to play against teams that like Jamaica, who have players in the Premier League, in the Championship, in the Bundesliga?
You can't. There's nothing you can in that 4-day window. You're not gonna, there's physically impossible to get a player fit if he's not fit. The only thing is, you can change your Gold Cup 4-4-2 flat press to a 4-4-2 diamond to counteract what the U.S. is going to do, right? That's what you're going to work on, is kind of a little bit more into how you're going to play the game, the next game. But there's little, like I told you, there's little you can do because even when we get the local player, domestic player, 4 days, you're still missing almost half the team, right? So, you have the young guys stepping in there, but and it's not like you can do something as an entire group because you don't have them. So look, that's why it's big for the player to be playing in a better league. And again, it's not, it could be, if it's El Salvador, great. But even, if I have a player in MLS, I want him to reach for Champions League, right? If we have a player in USL, we want him to reach for MLS. If we have a player in El Salvador, we want him in Costa Rica or something, right? We want him in Saprissa. We want him at a club that plays these high level games all the time. We want him in Mexico. That's okay. It doesn't have to be the US, but usually when a player is very good, he usually leaves, he goes abroad. Usually those are the players, right? And that, I think that's all we ask for the player, just to be, in order for a player to develop, he needs to be uncomfortable. If a player is comfortable, he doesn't usually develop. That's kind of a pretty normal rule in development, is a player needs to be uncomfortable. What does that mean? He plays up a year, right? Or he goes and lives in residency, or he goes to Europe and figures out how to survive, right? That's how players develop. They learn to survive. If you're comfortable, if I'm at home, I'm in San Salvador, I'm good. I'm with La Reserva, tranquilo, right? Alianza is going to debut me at 22. Perfect. I made it. He's comfortable. Which now when he goes into Panama, up 1-0 with, what if he's uncomfortable, right? Then it's how does that player solve that? So at the end, it's just a matter of figuring how to continue to make the player, for lack of a better, uncomfortable. And that's why it's go try and play here. Go try and figure out where you can play CONCACAF Champions League. Go MLS, fine, go MLS. You want to go Tigres, go to Tigres, right? But just try and be as uncomfortable as you can, because I think that's what furthers your development.
All right, we don't want to take more of your time, and really quickly to close. So far,
Go for it.
What has been your favorite moment in the Octagonal? Any special moment that you shared either with your dad or just at a personal level? But what would be a moment or that top highlight that you've had so far?
Couple. I think, first win against Panama, I think, was special in terms of, again, I said from the beginning, I would tell everybody would, you're crazy. I thought Panama and Canada were, in the summer in June, I thought they were the best coach teams with the most clear way of playing, understanding what they did, and the most, I thought, dangerous. Panama crashed out with the first round in the Gold Cup, right? So, you didn't get to see it, but when you saw them play, I said, they're way better than what they've shown. So I think that was special. And then look, at playing the US, I think, for me, where we're coming from, right? That was, I think, a really special moment, knowing that, you had seen those players in the academy, you had coached against them already at a youth level, seeing them there at that stage, right? Knowing what they went through for their development, and, knowing that we could compete against them, knowing that if we had a perfect game, we could win. That for us was special. I think it was a special moment, even for the entire country, right? Going back after 12 years, being at that stage, that stadium was packed. The anthem was loud, and that support is what the players feed off of, right? That's what the players really feed off of. That's what they talk about after the game. They just want to be loved, right? That's like any human, right? They just want to be loved. They just want the support of their fans. So I think, that for us was special, seeing the whole country united that day. And again, against a team that is supposed to be the best in CONCACAF right now, right? And they're making a case for it. So for me, that'd be, special. But at the same time, look, these games happen so fast, and there's so little time to even enjoy a game, right? I mean, right after the game, you're already watching film. The next morning, you're already working. You don't get any time to enjoy it. I think the only time I get to decompress a little bit is after the third game. But it's, I think the staff at that point, during those weeks, you're working 12 to 18 hours a day, nonstop, right? You just sleep and then get up and you're back at it. I think everybody complains at the end, like, I can't see another game or computer or huddle report, nothing. Like, don't talk to me for 3 days. I need to go back home and see my family. So I think that's it. But I think, look, after this whole thing, I hope we have time to reflect and enjoy it more. I think we have to be mature in terms of, we have to take the experience, right, for the players, especially the players, I think, and us. And we have to learn what it's going to take for us to compete. And it's really hard for a team, I think, to get through losses. It's not easy to lose and bounce back. It's really difficult. So even that is something that we have to keep an eye on after the octagon. All right, we have to make sure we're competing, we're winning, because winning is contagious. Winning gives you that extra motivation. Doesn't matter if you did look at the Jamaica game, we tied and it felt like we lost 10-0, right? And as a team, we looked at it and we said, we did a lot of things well. We deserve to win. But it doesn't always work that way. So I think once everything's done, maybe we'll appreciate more. But I think right now the U.S. and the Panama game were, I think, two special moments.
Nice. All right, man. Well, we'll let you go. Thanks so much for taking the time and chatting with us. And good luck with planning next month and heading into January. And hopefully you guys get a camp going so you guys can spend more time and get things going.
No, look, I think it'll take time. Look, I think you guys help out a lot in terms of educating the fan base here, right? Understanding what it takes to be elite. I think the fans here understand it more. I hope the ones in El Salvador kind of just, I don't blame them, right? It's the lack of resources might not let you see what other countries do to get to, these stages and be successful. But, I'm hoping everybody stays united through this, right? I would hate to see, things get blown up, because of tomorrow or yesterday's results. I think you just have to really look into the perspective of, what can we do for 2026 to prepare. So hopefully we can do that. But I think you guys do a good job of kind of educating the people here, understanding what it is that we have to go through. And then at the same time, being humble, knowing that, we haven't been the best in 30 years in anything. Right. So, I'd rather be where I'm at now than the laughingstock that we were, a year ago. I think everybody agrees with that. And then I get more positives out of the country than I do in the country, right? The coaches and countries, hey, wow, hey, you guys have really turned. I'll take that because then I know that they're looking at it at a different lens. And I think that's what we're kind of using to grow. Even all the players tell me all the time, like, and when I say every player tells me, the other team always tells me, hey, I can't believe you guys are playing this well, right? Even though we're not getting the result, they're like, we didn't expect that. Everybody just expects to walk through you guys. So at least we're fighting, right? And that's kind of what we wanted to bring back to the national league, is that fighting spirit and in your face, and it's going to be hard to beat us. So hopefully we do that. But thank you guys again. Hugo, we need to talk at some point because we're trying to do a youth camp in LA, December 9th.
Yeah, I'll give you a call.
Okay. And then maybe you should have a live podcast there.
Oof. That actually sounds like
maybe.
a good idea. I'll
willing to drive down?
No, I'm down. I'll just have to
make sure make sure they don't accuse you of being an agent out there.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you guys.
Man.
All right.
See you. Bye.
So there you go, guys. Definitely lots of food for thought. Like I said, we could have keep going on and on. I'm sure we're going to invite Gerson back because I had so many questions. But to me, what I take, a lot of what I take from this interview is that, sometimes for us, for Salvadorians, it's very hard to see where we stand, see where we stand before we make a negative criticism towards, a player, a coach, etc. We have to see where we stand. We have to see the work that we haven't been doing for the last 40 to 50 years that has led to where we are. And a coach is not going to come in 6 months and fix, their job is to coach the national team. Their job is not to fix an infrastructure. And I think that they are, trying to combine some of the two things. They're trying to fulfill their priorities with the coaching the national team, but also trying to find ways to help to improve the infrastructure of Salvadorian football, at least with the things that they can improve, such as giving players the better tools so that they can have opportunities to perhaps move to a better league, or give them a different training experience when they're in the national team, combining a lot of technology like GPS technology to measure the performance of players and see where they stand. These are things that we hardly see in El Salvador. We were not seeing this in previous with previous coaching staff, and we have to realize that you only get the results that you work towards. You have to work to get the results. You're not going to get somewhere or achieve any results by simply playing con huevos, or working like beasts during practices. There's more to that, and I think it's no secret for a lot of us who try to be objective that there's a lot that we haven't done as a nation in the sport that has led to some of the results that we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's easy to get disillusioned, to get ticked off, because you do see yourself reflected and represented by your national team, and to see them get a poor result or not an undesired result, it does hit you. It does hit your ego. You're rooting for your team. I mean, it does it with your normal local sports team, whether it's baseball, basketball, football, it hits you. But the national team gets you even deeper. It just hits a different type of nerve. And of course, after so many years of the same type of results, you're hoping for something to change. We have had reasons to believe, in at least competing. Once certain changes were made with the coaching staff and seeing how the team performed in Copa Oro, you had this hope that, we are going to compete, because if that cutoff would have been done back in June of 2020 and Canada and Panama aren't in there, with the way that the national team was working, I don't see how we would have been able to compete or at least stay close in games. We've only had one blowout so far, and it was to Canada, and with the types of rivals that are in this group, I mean, they're tough losses, but we're right in there, and with 5 or fewer months of work. And I think that in and of itself, it speaks volumes that we have to be in this situation. It didn't have to be this way, but because how things work in country, this is a situation that's been handed. But if you twist it and look for the long term, rather than just focusing on a World Cup that's going to be played in a year, you build something. And there's going to be that disappointment along the way, but this is where the work is put in. So you have to be able to see it and see, okay, there's some rebuilding going on. There's something that goes beyond just, all right, well, this guy just, effed up a pass, and because of his turnover, we lost the game. And that's even counterintuitive for me, where there's certain moments when, I see repetitive mistakes by a certain player. It's easy for me to be like, oh, we lost the match because of this player. It's so easy, right? Because it's what we see and it's what we're limited to on screen or in person if we actually get to go to a game, but it goes beyond that. And I think, we're always going to be our own coach. We're all coaches, right? We're always going to have our starting 11. But I think if this foundation is built, we will see those results. And it's that optimism that keeps us watching this team, right? If there weren't this optimism, you would have given up on this team after 1998, or especially after the Maños. But yet here we are discussing it, people buying their kids, going to games and supporting and tirando puteadas when things go awry. And I think the main thing is just try and keep the perspective. If you need to punch your couch, just do it and make sure you don't nail your cat or dog that's sitting next to you or something. I mean, it is frustrating when things don't go exactly how you want, but I think the main thing is keeping that perspective. Look at the friendlies that are coming up. Look at the money that's coming into this national team that hopefully is used properly to build a foundation to get to where we want to. Because the truth is, are we even top 3 of Central America? I don't know. Then you look at CONCACAF. We definitely aren't. And so if we want to aspire to it, we got to take those baby steps. And I think we're doing so, and hopefully this trend continues where they're building for something bigger and beyond just the next World Cup. It has to be long term. And with that, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. I know this has been a long episode. There was a lot to talk about, still plenty to talk about, even more. And we'll try and crank out some episodes before the end of the year. But for those of you in the States, enjoy your Thanksgiving. Have fun chatting with your fam. Hopefully you'll be able to listen to this on your commute, dealing with traffic and stuff. But anyway, we'll hit you guys up soon with the next episode. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, word of mouth, review us on Apple Podcasts. I was noticing we have one review, 5 stars, by our listener. I'm assuming, I'm trying to read this. It's Herrerd1. That's HERRERD1. And he says about our show, very entertaining, great content about the current squad, and also recaps of previous projects. Brings back a lot of memories. Would love to hear player ratings or player forums after the games if you guys get a chance to incorporate something like that. So thank you. That's our 5-star review. Please, it'd be great to have more. So don't be shy. Bust out your writing skills and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. And about player performances and ratings, what do you think about something like that, Uwe?
We could consider that. I've also gotten suggestions from other listeners that they like to have maybe an episode in which we invite a fan or two. So that's definitely something else that we can consider for future events to, try to create a little bit more of a community here.
For sure. That's the main thing, is we want to be able to interact and hear your voices, even if it's you guys puteándose entre ustedes on Twitter. That's all good too. Just remember, there's a person on the other side of that screen, even though they're a rando. But in any case, we'll close with that. Thanks a ton, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode of the Corner Blue. Take it easy.